Well, hello, welcome to Old Classic Car. Today, one of those fiddly little jobs that I've been putting off for a little while, namely this, the mirror on the Mazda MX5 here. Sadly, it snapped off. I'm not sure if we can see that, but that little rusty thing in there is the remains of the bolt that allows this to pivot on the mirror mounting, which is still on the car over there. Now, in the dim and distant past, long before we actually owned this car, I've got a feeling I actually took this mirror off for the then owner to grease this up, because I think it used to have a problem with sticking even back then. And fast forward to 2024, and I went to adjust the passenger mirror, and alas, it just came off, and that was it, fell on the floor, and that was the end of that. So I want to do a bit of a repair on this one now. I believe we can get the mounting off the door without having to take the door card off, so we can get it all from outside, which is potentially good news. The fiddly bit of the job, I believe, if we have a look here, apparently this black rim has to come off in order to release the mirror, and that will then give us access to get out the remains of the bolt which is in there. We'll have to do the same on the mounting on the car. So I think probably the fiddliest part of this job is going to be separating this. Apparently it is spot glued on, so you have to get something very fine and very sharp, maybe a razor blade or something like that, just to get that off. And hopefully we can then do a bit of disassembly, and like I say, do the same on here. Try and get that broken stud off from there, or this broken bolt rather, which goes through the two and allows this to pivot, and hopefully we can effect some kind of repair, so at least this can go back on there. You'd think there'd be loads of second-hand Mk1 MX5 door mirrors around on eBay for £10–20, but it would appear not. For some strange reason there isn't, and even then it would be the wrong colour, so I would still have to be faced with having to disassemble this and fitting this cover onto a new mirror, or having the new one repainted. So either way there's a bit of work to do, but I think the first thing to do is get that mounting off the door, and then we can figure out a route forward, a plan forward to get this job done. Okay, right, the bits that's still on the door. Right, if we just have a look down here, there is a little gap under here, because this is held on with, I think, 2 bolts into captive nuts which are in the door. So I think if we put that up there and just sort of edge this out, it should carefully, it's already cracked that slightly, but in theory this will just ping off. So we'll carefully do this. So I'm going to have to be very careful getting this off. I thought this would just ping off, but I'm not sure if it's going to be too happy to do that. So I'll put the camera down and just concentrate on that, I think. There we go, it actually came off really quite easily. And the crack, well, he doesn't look to be too happy about being woken up, but yeah, there we go. Right, so it's just 2 screws holding this on. How that is going to come out of there is, well, that's anyone's guess. If we just put this somewhere down here safely on this very rusty old welder. Right, so the head, there's a threaded bit, probably can't see that on the camera, but I'm guessing this is a bolt that goes through here from the mirror bit through into here, and there is a thread there, so we're going to have to get it out of there at some point. But first things first, let's just get this off the door. Let's see if I've got a suitable screwdriver over here. And what I'll probably do is take this one off, because if the other one's seized and snapped, this one, although it does move because this one is used more often, it probably wouldn't harm to whiz this one off and just grease it up as well, or at least flood some oil in. Right, let's find the spanner, screwdriver rather. Okay, here's a nice hefty screwdriver. So let's go and see. Obviously I don't want to slip doing this, because that would be very bad indeed. It's a nice close fit. There we go. So that one's turning okay. So I'm assuming these are going into some sort of captive nut inside the door. Some of the creepy crawly there looks particularly unhappy at being woken up. You probably thought, oh, I've got a great home here for the winter, but sadly not sunshine. Oh, that's a bit tighter. Right, I need 2 hands for this. There we go, that one's come as well, that's alright. So the other good thing is I'll be able to clean up the door beneath this. Yeah, you see, that's coming off nicely now, that's always good. So, yeah, someone's thought about this. Saves taking all the door trim off, which is always a bit of a faff, even though on these it's pretty simple. It might be different on cars that have electric mirrors, but that just sounds like unnecessary weight to me, and yeah, we don't need those sort of complications, thanks. So let's just carefully take this out, and then we can get this off the door. Yeah, that's definitely going to benefit from a bit of a clean up, or clean it, wax it up, make sure that's all tickety-boo before we put the bracket back on. And there we go. Hope you can see that. One very rusty bit of thread and nut. That's going to be interesting to get out. I may have to use a nut splitter or something just to get the remains of that out of there. So it's going to be one of these jobs that isn't quite as quick and easy as maybe I thought it was going to be. But yeah, at least we can see what we're doing now. Of course, it may just be that a sharp tap with a hammer on the bit that's broken off there, it might just fall out altogether. So that would be nice. I think we'll give that a go first. This is metal, so it's not going to come to too much harm, I don't think. Alright, there we go. The whole thing has come out from inside. So this pivots. So obviously the mirror attaches to this bit, and this allows you to pivot it within the mounting here. So that would be inside there, and it would allow it to pivot round. But clearly I think it's all looking pretty crusty, pretty corroded, so it's going to be very worthwhile giving that a really good clean out, grease it all up, and hopefully we won't have any problems again. But yeah, bit of work to do there, so I'll report back once we've cleaned this up and I've managed to get that out of there. This bit is only plastic, so I've got to be careful what I do with that. I can't go walloping it too hard. Right, well, I'm not going too far with getting the nut off the threaded bit that's still in here, so I'm going to try this. This is a small nut splitter. Basically what happens is you tighten up this bolt end here, and that winds this pointy thing into the head of the nut. Hopefully you can maybe just about see in there, you can see the theory. That pointy shiny bit winds into the side of the nut, and in theory splits it off. The threaded bit, which is still in there, and that should release the thread in there, and that it should tap out. But because everything's so rusty in there, it's just putting up a little bit of a fight at the moment. Right, this is basically what we're up to. So wind that in, that goes that way, and hopefully it splits that rusty nut off the thread. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is only a fairly cheap nut splitter, but I have used it before. I'll just have to see whether it works this time, even if it doesn't get the nut off completely. If it at least releases it, then that's part of the way there. Right, well, the nut splitter only partially split it, so I think I'm going to resort to the junior hacksaw. And literally I'll just saw the sides, the head of the nut off. And if I do that this side, maybe that side, and maybe that way as well, eventually the remains of the nut will come off, and that might just mean I can free off the remains of this thread in here. But bit of a palaver. Still, it's not a bad day for it. Well, there's the first bit off. in the end I managed to drift it out. So that's the bit that I want to keep, because that goes inside there, and this was the threaded bit that was all rusted up and snapped, so that wasn't great. Okay, so with the broken bit out of the mirror mounting, the bottom bit, now I can turn my attentions to trying to get this black trim off here, get the mirror out, and then get out the remains of the bolt which is still in there. So I'm sure that'll be an equally joyous task, but the first thing to do is I think we'll see if we can find a razor blade and then have a gentle go at getting that off there. And in my reorganised garage I can't really find anything at the moment, so that might take a little while. Right, it's just starting to come. I'm using the flat of a razor blade because I don't want to split this this sort of black rubber trim thing. So I'm going very, very gingerly indeed, because at 30 years old it could probably really easily split, and I don't want that because I need to try and glue this back on afterwards. So yeah, I've got about an inch and a half of it just starting to lift up here using the flat of the blade, i.e. one of these. So it is beginning to come, so I'll report back once hopefully this black thing is off. You really want to be using the flat of the blade. See that just starting to come, because I think this will split so easily. So you want to use the flat edge of the blade, insert it between the black and the yellow, and just gently twist and just ease it out, coax it out, so that hopefully this black piece doesn't split. But yeah, the trick I think is to go really, really slow. Phew, right. There we go. That was a tense couple of minutes, but there we go. It is off and in one piece, so that is good. So we will put that somewhere safe, right up there. It sort of clips on. It's a bit of a funny thing. Obviously, I'm going to try and get the glass out now without dropping it on the floor. That would be good. And then we'll see what's inside there. Hello. Right. After a little bit of very careful persuasion, the mirror is out, the glass itself is out, and that is what we're left with. Bits of old rusty stuff in there. Quite a rusty spring, but I think that'll clean up. And the head of the bolt, which passes through there into the mounting piece. And that is what we will need to replace. So, yeah, let's go and clean this up a bit and try and get that out of there without damaging this plastic thing. Okay, that didn't quite go as expected. This, of course, was stuck in there with the spring on it. So the only way of getting it out was to tap the end of the broken bolt, which was sticking out through there, and it flew off with an almighty bang. Fortunately, the spring is still here. I had visions of having to try and find that somewhere in the garage, because it went off with a hell of a bang. Bounced off something, but I don't think any damage was done. Yeah, that made me jump. Right, so what we are left with is a spring which a little bit rusty. It goes that way up, not that it probably matters, but we'll just clean that up a little bit, and that sits in there like so. I hope you can see that. Let's go outside. Right, so that sits in there. All we need to find now is a nut and bolt of the right length and diameter-ish, similar to this one, and hopefully we can put it back together and grease everything up well before we do so, and then hopefully we'll never have to take it off again. Right, I think I've found enough bits and pieces to put this back together. I found another replacement long bolt and a suitable nut to hold it together. Got the right washers, that kind of thing. I just need to clean up this spring, because the compression on that spring controls how easy or not it is to angle the mirror once it's on the door. So we'll just need to have a bit of a play with that. Yeah, I think we're doing okay, and I've got the grease out because I'll be greasing everything up, including in here, because there was a bit of like aluminium corrosion just inside there. I've cleaned it up, so we'll just do a bit of that, and hopefully we won't have to do this again. Right, so there we go, fresh bolt and washers in place, so loosely reassembled. So there we go, all greased up as well, so that should be good for another 30 years. Obviously, like I say, the more I tighten that nut down and compress the big heavy spring, the heavier it'll be to do the adjustments, but I think that's probably quite difficult to figure out without the mirror being back on the car. So I think what I'll do, I'll temporarily, before I refit the glass, we'll just screw this back to the door over on the passenger side and just make sure it feels about the right kind of tension. If not, we'll just nip that nut up a little bit and just tighten it down a little bit, and yeah, hopefully we'll be good to go. Then I'll just go and get a bit of glue and refit the glass and that very delicate black surround. So yeah, let's go and put it on the car and see how it is. And of course what I did forget to do before bolting that back together, the two halves, is to fit this back to the mounting, because of course once the head is back on the base, you can't fit that on. So bit of a rookie mistake there. Right, this is temporarily screwed on, still a little bit slack, so just have to adjust it slightly. And of course, being a new old stock, very old nut and bolt, I've had to break out the proper old spanners, and we have a BA spanner here, a Draper British made, so we've got a bit of classic car on here. And we'll just nip up, probably can't see that, but we'll just nip up the nut there, tighten down against the spring, and then when we're happy with that, I can take it off again and refit the glass. I think that'll do. But I must clean this up as well. I had to take the gasket off in order to be able to do all this in the right order. You have to take the little rubber gasket off the bottom of the base that goes between this and the body of the car. So I must remember to put that on. But first I need to clean the door up a bit. And there we go. Just a tiniest little few blobs of glue just to hold the black thing in. And I think it's correctly tensioned, so that can go back on. The little rubber gasket is just on the floor down there. The door is cleaned up, ready to accept the mirror back on there. It'll be nice to see that back on. And the final job will be just to polish this up, because yes, lots of greasy fingerprints. But yeah, that'll be a nice finishing off job. Let's get this back on. Okay, well that's screwed back on. One screw there, you have to wiggle this around. The other one just down there. So that's all good. So we can clip this back on, I think, and get out the polish. And there we have it, all fitted and back working again. It's always been a bit stiff, this one, so I've greased everything up now, so we should be good to go. Well, thanks very much for watching this short video of taking apart and fixing the snapped mirror on our MX5 Mk1. Please check out the rest of the channel while you're here, and there'll be loads more videos along really soon, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now.